The sky above New Harmony burned red. Smoke twisted into the clouds, lit by the constant flashes of exploding defense platforms. Each blast shook the planet, sending sparks raining down onto the cracked streets below. Ambassador Zeralex stood in the council chamber, staring out from the tall window. Her crystalline body reflected the fiery chaos outside, shimmering with fear she could not hide. She had lived for 342 cycles, seen wars, disasters, and uprisings. But nothing had prepared her for this. The void swarm was unstoppable. It consumed everything in its path. Worlds, cities, civilizations, gone in hours. And now New Harmony was next. The emergency council had once numbered 50 members. Now only 7 remained. Their faces were pale, eyes hollow. They whispered among themselves, clutching data pads and scanning incoming reports. The outer colonies, gone, Council Elder Carrick said, his voice trembling. Every single one. Zeralex turned from the window, her multifaceted eyes glinting. We have one option left, she said. From beneath her cloak, she produced a small device, no bigger than her palm. The council leaned forward. The device contained the last hope of the Felian Confederacy. Inside were the coordinates of their remaining colonies, every piece of Felian technology, and a single desperate message. Help us or we die. Murmurs filled the room. Elder Tysick shook his head. No one will help us. The Mandarins refused 3 cycles ago. The Vex sealed their borders. The Creek withdrew when the swarm approached. Who else is left? Other species, Zeralex said. Younger races we haven't contacted. Maybe they can help. Tysick scoffed. Too primitive. They are not ready. We are alone in this galaxy now. Zeralex's voice hardened. We either send the signal or face extinction. That is all we have left. Hours passed in debate. Despair thickened the air. Finally, a vote was taken. The decision was unanimous. Send the signal. Zeralex's claws gripped the device as she made her way to the communications tower, the last one still functional on New Harmony. Her heart raced. Every step echoed in the empty corridors. Every hallway was a reminder of the civilization slipping through their fingers. She placed the device on the central console and activated the broadcast. The signal surged through the galaxy, faster than any message had ever traveled. It contained coordinates, technology, star charts, and one plea repeated across every frequency. Help us, or we die. Species across the stars received it. Some saw the data, the desperate message. All ignored it. The risk was too high, the void swarm too dangerous. All except one. A small, blue planet in the Orion Arm. The camera shifts light years away. The Earth Alliance vessel Intrepid glides silently through space, a mid-sized ship with a crew of 120. Captain Allison Reed was finishing her daily inspection when the alert came. Captain, Lieutenant Paul Martinez called over the comms, his voice tight with tension. We've picked up a signal. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. Thousands of light years away. It's coming from the Cygnus sector. Reed's heart skipped a beat. She hurried to the bridge. Her crew followed, moving with precise urgency, though worry was written on every face. Martinez worked quickly, inputting the alien data into the ship's systems. Symbols and diagrams flickered across the screen, strange and beautiful. Then, slowly, the message translated into human-readable text. A distress call. From a race called the Felian Confederacy. They were being destroyed by the Void Swarm. They've shared everything with us, Martinez said quietly. Star charts, technology, their vulnerability. And they've asked for help. Reed studied the data, her mind racing. This was no ordinary distress call. The Felians were advanced. Their enemies were unstoppable. Most humans would have looked away. Earth Command had already received the same message. Do not engage, the message read. Too dangerous. Too far. Do not respond. Reed clenched her fists. She knew the regulations. She knew the consequences. But some things were worth more than rules. Some things were worth risking a career, or even a life. Prepare the ship, she ordered. We're going to the Felian colonies. A heavy silence filled the bridge. The crew looked at her, uncertainty in their eyes. But also determination. They trusted their captain, and now they had a purpose beyond routine patrols and bureaucratic commands. Peterson, the navigation officer, calculated the fastest route. Captain, it will take 27 days to reach the nearest colony at maximum speed. Reed nodded. Then we leave immediately. Engage. The Intrepid's engines flared to life. The ship slipped into faster-than-light travel, racing toward the unknown. In the darkness of space, a single human ship moved toward a war zone that had already crushed civilizations far older and stronger than humanity. For the Felians, watching from their crumbling defenses, this ship, just one with a determined crew, was the first ray of hope they had seen in centuries. And for Captain Reed and her crew, the galaxy had just become a battlefield, and they were the only line standing between extinction and survival. The stars stretched before them. Unknown dangers awaited. And yet the humans pressed on. The first chapter of this story ends here, with the Intrepid leaping into the void, a small ship carrying the weight of an entire civilization's hope. The Intrepid streaked through the emptiness of space, leaving the familiar stars of the Orion Arm behind. Captain Allison Reed stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the endless black ahead. Every light, every blinking sensor, reminded her crew of the danger that waited. The Felians were far more advanced than humans, yet they were on the brink of extinction. And now, Reed and her small crew carried the impossible task of saving them. Lieutenant Martinez worked tirelessly at the communication station, monitoring any response from the distant Felian colonies. "Captain," he said, his voice tight with worry, "we are approaching the edge of the Felian system. Sensors are picking up debris, lots of it. Could be destroyed defense platforms or wrecked ships." Reed swallowed hard. "Keep scanning. I want a full assessment before we drop out of FTL." Science Officer Dr. Samantha Gray stepped forward, her tablet glowing with alien schematics. "Captain, I've been analyzing the Felian technology they sent. Their shields, weapons, and propulsion systems are incredible. Far beyond our current capabilities. But some of it is compatible. If we adapt, we could have an edge." Reed nodded. "Good. Make it ready. Every second counts." Engineer Maria Lopez and her team were already working in the engine room, adjusting power flows and weapon calibrations to integrate Felian technology. Every circuit, every wire, every protocol had to be perfect. One small mistake could cost them their lives, and doom the Felians they were racing to save. Meanwhile, Tactical Officer Eric Chin ran simulations of potential combat scenarios with the Void Swarm. "Captain, even with these enhancements, we're lightly armed. The Swarm is unlike anything in human records. They overwhelm civilizations far stronger than ours. One mistake and we could be annihilated in minutes." Reed's jaw tightened. "Then we must be smarter, faster, and more precise. We won't fail them." 4 days, the Intrepid traveled through uncharted space, the crew working in tense silence. Sleep was brief, meals were rushed, and every crew member felt the weight of the galaxy on their shoulders. Outside, the stars were silent witnesses. Inside, the ship hummed with a mix of fear and determination. Finally, sensors detected signs of life on the first Felian colony in the Nexus Prime system. The planet below was scarred by bombardment, its surface marred by massive craters and smoking ruins. Defense platforms floated lifelessly in orbit, shattered and broken. The planet had already seen too much destruction. Reed stepped closer to the observation window. Thousands of Felian life signs were concentrated in underground shelters. The creatures moved slowly, cautiously, their crystalline bodies reflecting dim light. "They survived, barely," Reed whispered. "We have to reach them before the swarm returns." "Captain," Peterson said, "long-range sensors show no swarm presence in this system yet. But we can detect fragments, debris from their attacks. And readings suggest another wave could be incoming at any time." Reed clenched her fists. "Then we move fast. Prepare for immediate deployment." Communications Officer Lisa Doyle adjusted the translator settings. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from the Felians. They're terrified and confused. They don't fully understand who we are. Some fear us as another enemy." Reed raised her hand. "Open a channel. We're here to help. Tell them humans have answered the call. We are not their enemy." A crystalline Felian appeared on the screen, eyes wide, trembling. Its voice cracked as it spoke through the universal translator. "Humans? You have come? The swarm will destroy everything. Why?" Reed's voice was calm but firm. "Because it is the right thing to do. You trusted us with your message. We will not ignore it. Help is here." The Felian trembled, its body reflecting the dim light. We have not seen hope in centuries." Reed's eyes softened. "Then let us be that hope." But hope came with danger. Sensors picked up movement in orbit, shadows larger than anything the crew had seen. The Void Swarm had arrived. Ships of dark energy, alive and pulsing, moved like predatory fish around the planet. They were drawn to life, to energy, to destruction. "Captain," Tactical Officer Chin said, voice tense, "the swarm, They know we're here. They're moving closer. We have seconds, maybe minutes. Reed exhaled. All hands, battle stations. Shields up. Weapons ready. We protect the Felian survivors at all costs. The crew moved with precision, nerves straining. They were not a warship built for this scale of battle. Their weapons were modest, their shields fragile, but their will was unbreakable. They had humanity's courage, and the knowledge that some lives depended entirely on them. As the first tendrils of the swarm entered the system, Reed gritted her teeth. This was it, the moment where ordinary humans faced an extraordinary enemy. Every second counted. Every decision could mean survival or extinction. And in the darkness of space, one small ship carried the hope of an entire civilization. The Intrepid and its crew were no longer just explorers. They were saviors. The Intrepid hovered at the edge of the Nexus Prime system, engines humming, shields flickering under the strain of rapid acceleration. Outside, the shadows of the void swarm moved like living storms, dark tendrils curling toward the planet below. Captain Allison Reed stood on the bridge, hands gripping the rail. Every crew member was tense, every sensor blaring warnings. There was no turning back. Captain, Tactical Officer Eric Chin called out, "Swarm units are closing fast. They've picked up our energy signature. We have minutes, maybe seconds, before they reach the planet's surface." Reed's jaw tightened. "Then we buy time. Focus on shielding the Felian survivors. Use everything we have. Engineer Lopez, maximize shield output. Divert all non-essential power to defensive systems." Maria Lopez nodded, hands flying over the console. Lights flickered as systems strained to handle the sudden surge. The ship groaned under the pressure, but the shields held, shimmering like a fragile bubble against the oncoming darkness. "Weapons are ready, Captain," said Tactical Officer Chin. "Missiles, energy cannons, and adapted Felian pulse lasers. We can try to slow them down, but we won't stop them completely." Reed exhaled sharply. "Then we hit first. Target the largest swarm tendrils. Keep them away from the planet as long as possible." The bridge crew moved with mechanical precision. Lieutenant Martinez targeted the tendrils, firing pulse lasers that cut streaks of light through the darkness. Missiles launched in rapid succession, each explosion illuminating the void with fiery brilliance. But the void swarm did not retreat. It twisted, adapted, its tendrils avoiding destruction as if alive, reshaping itself to surround the Intrepid. "Captain," Chin shouted, "they're adapting to our weapons. Energy fields are forming around the tendrils. We're barely scratching them." Reed clenched her teeth. "Then we use strategy. Predict, outthink, and strike where they are weakest. Humans may not be the strongest, but we are clever." She turned to Dr. Samantha Gray. "Samantha, analyze their patterns. Where are the gaps? Where are they vulnerable?" Gray's fingers flew across the console. Graphs and energy readings flashed on the screen. "Captain, their coordination is precise, but they overextend when they surround a target. If we bait them, we can isolate sections and hit critical points. It's risky, but it could work." Reed nodded. "Do it. Lieutenant Martinez, draw them toward the upper orbit. Chin, prepare concentrated energy bursts for their exposed nodes." The crew executed the plan flawlessly. The Intrepid maneuvered like a small predator, dodging tendrils, baiting the swarm into overextension. The Felian survivors below could only watch in awe and fear as this tiny human vessel danced against an enemy that had devoured entire civilizations. Explosions erupted across the swarm, tendrils severed, clusters destabilized. The crew worked in tense silence, sweat glistening on brows, hands shaking but never faltering. Each success was met with a nod, each failure met with recalculated precision. Outside, the Felian planet trembled. Rubble rained down, smoke filled the skies, and yet, for the first time in cycles, hope flickered. The humans were holding the line. "Captain," Lieutenant Peterson called, pointing to the sensors, "they're beginning to pull back from the planet. Our strategy is working." Reed allowed herself a small smile. "Good. But this is not over. Keep pressure on. Keep them away from the colonies. We need to give the Felians time to evacuate." Engineer Lopez and her team worked to stabilize the ship's shields under the constant strain. Pulse lasers and missiles fired again and again, striking precise points identified by Gray's analysis. Tendrils shattered, energy bursts ripped through the swarm, and slowly the dark mass began to fracture. Communications Officer Lisa Doyle opened a channel to the Felian survivors. "This is Captain Reed of the Earth Alliance ship Intrepid. We are here to protect you. Prepare for evacuation. Follow our guidance and you will survive." A chorus of crystalline voices responded, trembling but hopeful. The Felians began moving in organized lines toward the evacuation points. Crystalline light shimmered across their bodies as they navigated the tunnels and transport lifts. Reed watched the process, pride and determination filling her. "This is what it means to answer a call for help," she said quietly. "This is humanity." But the swarm was relentless. New tendrils reached for the planet's surface, closer to the evacuation routes. The Intrepid maneuvered again, weaving between attacks, launching calculated strikes that severed the tendrils before they could reach the fleeing Felians. Dr. Gray called out, excitement in her voice. "Captain, I found a weak point in their energy flow. A concentrated strike here could destabilize a large cluster." Reed's eyes narrowed. "Do it. All weapons, fire at my mark." The bridge held its breath as every weapon fired simultaneously. Pulses of light streaked across space, hitting the exact point Gray identified. The swarm shrieked in energy, fracturing violently. Tendrils collapsed into nothingness. The Intrepid rocked from the shockwave, but its shields held. Silence followed. Outside, the swarm had retreated, pulling back into the darkness, leaving the planet and the fleeing Felians intact, for now. The crew exhaled collectively, exhaustion and relief washing over them. Reed looked out at the stars, her face set with resolve. "This is only the beginning. We've given them hope, but the swarm will return. And next time it will be stronger. We must prepare or the Felian Confederacy will still fall." For the Felians, the tiny human ship was no longer just a vessel. It was a symbol, proof that in the galaxy, some would answer a desperate call, even when everyone else had turned away. Humanity had come. And that made all the difference. The first battle was over, but the war had just begun. The battle was over, for now. The shadows of the void swarm had retreated into the darkness, leaving the scarred planet of Nexus Prime trembling in their wake. Smoke rose from the ruins of shattered defense platforms and destroyed structures. Yet amidst the destruction, a fragile hope had been ignited. Captain Allison Reed watched the planet below from the Intrepid's bridge. Thousands of Felian survivors had been guided into underground shelters and temporary evacuation zones. Crystalline bodies shimmered faintly, trembling, frightened, but alive. This was a victory, but it felt fragile. One misstep, one new wave of the swarm, and everything could be lost. "Captain," Lieutenant Martinez said, pointing to the sensors, "the survivors are gathering in the central evacuation chamber. They've started moving out from the shelters. It's slow, but organized." Reed nodded. "Good. Let's make sure they stay safe. We can't let fear undo the progress we've made." Science Officer Dr. Samantha Gray approached, holding a tablet glowing with Felian data. "Captain, I've been studying their technology and communication networks. Many of their systems were destroyed, but the survivors still retain partial control of underground power nodes and transport systems. If we help them reactivate even a fraction of it, they can defend themselves better." Reed's eyes sharpened. "Then do it. Liaise with Engineer Lopez. Adapt their tech for rapid deployment. Let's give them a fighting chance." Meanwhile, the Felians themselves were cautious. Ambassador Zeralex and several council members had emerged from the deepest shelters. Their crystalline forms shimmered under the dim light of the underground facilities. They were wary of humans, uncertain if trust was warranted. After centuries of isolation and near extinction, hope was a fragile thing. Reed stepped forward to meet them personally, her hands visible and empty to show she bore no weapons. "I know you don't fully trust us," she said gently, "but we've come to help. We are here to save as many of you as possible. We answer your call because it is the right thing to do." Zeralex's multifaceted eyes studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly she inclined her head. "We have seen our civilization crumble," she said, voice trembling. "And yet, you humans, you came when everyone else turned away. This is hope. Perhaps, we can work together." Reed nodded. "Then let's prepare. We have to give the swarm a reason to think twice before returning." Over the next several days, the Intrepid's crew and the Felians worked side by side. Engineers and scientists exchanged knowledge, translating complex data into usable forms. Humans taught the Felians tactics adapted to their technology. Felian engineers helped the humans integrate pulse weapons and shield modifications for the Intrepid. The underground chambers buzzed with activity. Makeshift workshops, shield generators, and communications hubs sprang up. Humans and Felians, once strangers from different worlds, began to form a bond forged by necessity and courage. Still, Reed knew time was short. "The swarm will return," she reminded the Felian Council. "It won't wait for us to finish repairs. We must act quickly, train your people, and fortify your defenses. We are preparing for the next wave now, not after it hits. Tactical Officer Eric Chin ran simulations on the bridge, projecting swarm attacks across multiple scenarios. Captain, their approach patterns are unpredictable. They don't attack in straight lines. They swarm and adapt, learning from every engagement. If we fight them again, it could be even more dangerous. Reed's hands clenched around the railing. Then we make them pay for every inch. Humans may be small, our numbers few, but our will is strong. We've come this far. We will not fail now. Meanwhile, Dr. Gray worked with Felian biologists and engineers, developing new hybrid technologies that combined human ingenuity with Felian advancements. Energy nodes were stabilized, transport systems optimized, and defensive turrets adapted to fire both Felian pulses and human-modified projectiles. On the surface, the Felian people began to emerge cautiously, testing their damaged world. Crystalline structures glimmered as they rebuilt, coordinated under human guidance, forming defensive formations and rescue teams. For the first time in cycles, they moved with purpose rather than fear. But in the darkness of orbit, sensors continued to flicker. Shadows moved. The swarm had not disappeared. Reed watched silently, aware that the calm was temporary. The galaxy had shown its teeth, and the next bite would be far more devastating. Captain, Lieutenant Peterson said, his voice tight, long-range scans are picking up a new energy signature. It's unlike anything we've seen before. The swarm, it's evolving. Larger, faster, and more coordinated. Reed's eyes hardened. Then we evolve too. We fight smarter, faster, and together. Humanity came because we could. The Felians survived because we chose to act. Now, we make our stand. As night fell on Nexus Prime, lights flickered in the underground shelters. Humans and Felians worked side by side, preparing for a storm larger than anything either species had faced. In the shadows beyond the planet, the void swarm waited, growing stronger, hungrier, more cunning. But Reed smiled grimly. Let them come. We're ready. And for the first time in centuries, the Felians felt something they hadn't felt in generations. Hope. The Intrepid floated above Nexus Prime, its shields glowing faintly under the strain of constant vigilance. On the planet below, Felian survivors were finishing the last preparations for the defense of their colony. Crystalline structures gleamed dimly as energy nodes hummed to life. The air was thick with tension. Everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the void swarm returned, stronger, faster, and more relentless than before. Captain Allison Reed stood on the bridge, her hands gripping the railing. Sensors? She asked, voice calm but firm. Tactical Officer Eric Chin pointed at the holographic display. They're here, Captain. Multiple clusters, moving at high velocity. Larger than before. They've learned from the last engagement. This isn't a scouting attack, they're coming for the colony. Reed exhaled sharply. Then we meet them head-on. All stations, battle readiness. Humans and Felian defenses, coordinate now. This is our stand. Engineer Maria Lopez and her team worked feverishly, stabilizing the Intrepid's shields and recalibrating weapons adapted from Felian designs. Captain, she said, we can push the energy output for a short burst, enough to fire all our weapons simultaneously, but it may drain the main shields. Reed nodded. Do it. It's our best chance to slow them down. Meanwhile, Dr. Samantha Gray worked with Felian engineers in the underground facilities, synchronizing planetary defenses with the Intrepid. Turrets, pulse lasers, and shield generators hummed in unison, forming a network defense grid, a combination of human ingenuity and Felian technology. The first tendrils of the swarm appeared on the long-range sensors. Dark, writhing forms, pulsating with alien energy, stretched across space. They moved as one, a coordinated hive, ready to consume everything in their path. Captain, Lieutenant Martinez said, his voice tense, they're entering the system at multiple vectors. If we don't act quickly, the colony will be overrun before we can even engage. Reed's eyes narrowed. Then we force them into a trap. Chin, target the tendrils closest to the planet's surface. Martinez, coordinate with Gray to activate planetary shields and sync with our weapons. Every pulse must hit at the same moment. Timing is everything. The crew moved like a single organism. The Intrepid fired first, streaks of human-modified pulse energy tearing through the nearest swarm clusters. On the planet, Felian turrets opened fire, synchronized perfectly with the ship's volleys. Explosions illuminated the dark space, casting flickering shadows across the surface of Nexus Prime. But the swarm adapted quickly. Tendrils shifted mid-flight, wrapping around destroyed debris, forming shields against incoming attacks. They were relentless, intelligent, and terrifying. "Captain," Shin shouted, "they're overwhelming the planetary defenses. Shields are failing in the east sector." Reed's jaw tightened. "Then we reinforce it. Lopez, divert all remaining energy to that sector. Gray, recalibrate the pulse lasers to focus on high-density clusters. Martinez, fire on my mark." The Intrepid surged forward, its engines glowing brightly. Every weapon fired simultaneously, each shot calculated to target the swarm's most vulnerable points. Tendrils shattered, clusters collapsed, and for a brief moment the shadows retreated. But the swarm was not finished. From the darkness beyond the planet, a massive cluster approached, a living nightmare of energy and destruction. It moved faster, more coordinated than anything Reed had faced. It was intelligent, and it had learned from humanity's last attack. "Captain," Peterson warned, "we don't have enough firepower to stop that cluster directly." Reed's eyes blazed with determination. "Then we make it think it has no chance. We use strategy. Lure it into the energy trap near the planetary core. All remaining weapons concentrate on the funnel points. Make it pay for every inch." The crew worked in perfect synchrony. The Intrepid maneuvered carefully, drawing the massive cluster closer while Felian defenses guided it into a narrow corridor of concentrated energy. Reed's heart pounded as every second counted, every movement precise. Then the moment came. Energy pulsed from the planet's core, amplified by the Intrepid's modified pulse lasers. The swarm cluster collided with the trap. There was a blinding explosion of light, fire, and energy. The massive tendrils writhed and shrieked as they collapsed into nothingness. The system went silent for a heartbeat. Then sensors confirmed it. Most of the swarm had been destroyed, the remainder retreating into the void. Nexus Prime was safe, for now. The crew exhaled collectively, exhaustion and relief washing over them. On the planet below, Felian survivors emerged from shelters, their crystalline bodies gleaming in the dim light. They cheered, unsure of what had just happened, but grateful to be alive. Reed stood on the bridge, her hands clenched. This was only the beginning. We've bought them time, but the swarm will return. We will face it again, and next time it will be stronger. But humanity will be ready. We answer the call, no matter the cost. The Felians looked at the humans differently now. Where fear and hopelessness had once ruled, there was now admiration, respect, and trust. The humans had come when no one else would. They had faced an unimaginable threat and survived. And somewhere deep in the void, the swarm pulsed and shifted, aware of the one species that had dared to stand against it. The galaxy was far from safe, but for the Felian Confederacy, there was a chance because humanity had answered the call. The Nexus Prime system was silent but tense. After the previous battle, the Felian survivors had regrouped, their crystalline bodies glimmering faintly under the planet's dim light. The Intrepid hovered above, shields humming, weapons charged, and crew alert. They all knew the swarm would return, and this time it would not hold back. Captain Allison Reed stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the empty darkness beyond the planet. Her crew moved efficiently, preparing every system, every weapon, every contingency. They had adapted Felian technology, synchronized defenses, and trained survivors. But no matter the preparation, the void swarm was relentless, and victory was not guaranteed. "Captain," Tactical Officer Eric Chin said, voice tense, "long-range sensors are picking up multiple clusters. They're moving faster than before, larger and more coordinated. It's the full assault." Reed clenched her fists. "Then we stand and fight. Every human and Felian, every weapon, every plan, we use it all. We protect this planet. We protect their people. Humanity will answer the call, no matter the cost." Engineer Maria Lopez worked frantically in the engine room, stabilizing the ship's energy systems. "Captain, shields can take the load, but it's pushing the limits. We might only get one full volley before they risk collapse." Reed nodded sharply. "Then it has to count. Every shot, every pulse, every strike, make it precise." On the planet below, Felian engineers coordinated with Dr. Samantha Gray, preparing the last remaining energy nodes and defensive turrets. Thousands of Felian civilians had been armed with basic energy weapons, guided by human instructors. Together, humans and Felians formed a network defense unlike anything the swarm had faced. The first tendrils of the swarm pierced the system's edge, black, writhing, moving as a single, predatory entity. The Intrepid fired the first volley, pulse lasers streaking through the void, missiles erupting against tendrils, and Felian turrets joining in a synchronized symphony of destruction. But the swarm was smarter now. It split into multiple clusters, avoiding concentrated fire, and targeted the Felian civilians below. "Captain," Lieutenant Peterson shouted. "They're breaking through our outer defenses." Reed's voice was calm but commanding. "All stations focus fire on the closest clusters. Protect the civilians. Martinez, coordinate with Gray to adjust planetary shields. We hold them off, no one dies today." The battle raged across space. Energy pulses collided with dark tendrils. Explosions lit the void. The Intrepid weaved through attacks, maneuvering with precision, buying time for the Felians to evacuate civilians into underground shelters. "Captain," Chin shouted, "another massive cluster. If it reaches the core city, thousands will die." Reed's eyes narrowed. "Then we lure it into the energy trap near the planetary core. All remaining weapons fire in sync." The Intrepid surged forward, drawing the cluster toward the trap. Felian defenses activated simultaneously, channeling energy into the corridor. Pulse lasers and shields fired in perfect timing. Tendrils collided with the energy field, shrieking, collapsing, and fracturing into nothingness. But the swarm was not done. From the darkness beyond the planet, a massive entity emerged, larger than anything Reed had seen. Its energy pulsed violently, black tendrils writhing like living shadows. It was intelligent, adaptive, and it had learned from every strike the humans had made. "Captain," Martinez said, voice trembling, "it's massive. This one is different. It feels alive." Reed's jaw tightened. "Then we become smarter. We are humanity. We face impossible odds. We do what others would not. All weapons, all power, channel it through the main pulse array. This is our stand." The crew worked in perfect synchrony. The Intrepid maneuvered carefully, dodging tendrils while firing concentrated bursts of energy. Gray's calculations pinpointed the entity's weak spots. Felian turrets, human-modified pulse lasers, and energy bursts struck simultaneously. The massive swarm entity shrieked, its form destabilizing under the combined assault. Then the final strike. Reed gave the order. Pulse lasers, missiles, and energy nodes converged on the heart of the entity. There was a blinding explosion, light flaring across the system. Tendrils collapsed, the entity shrieked, and the void swarm's presence in the system fractured. Silence followed. Sensors confirmed it. Most of the swarm had been destroyed, the remainder fleeing into the darkness. The planet was saved. For now. On the planet's surface, Felian civilians cheered. Crystalline forms shimmered in joy and disbelief. Ambassador Zeralex approached Captain Reed, eyes wide with awe. "Humans, you have saved us. You answered the call when no one else would. Our civilization owes you everything." Reed shook her head, voice calm but resolute. "We only did what was right. Hope is not given, it is earned. You have the strength to rebuild. You have the courage to survive. Humanity only offered a hand. For the Felians, the humans were more than saviors. They were heroes, a symbol of courage and ingenuity. Where fear had once ruled, hope now thrived." Reed looked out into the darkness beyond the planet. The galaxy was still vast, still dangerous. Other threats waited. But she knew one truth: humans would always answer the call. No matter how hopeless, no matter how impossible, they would rise. And in the hearts of the Felians, a new alliance was forged. One built on trust, courage, and the knowledge that even in the darkest hour, humanity would stand between them and extinction. The Intrepid floated silently in orbit, engines humming softly. Captain Reed and her crew had faced the impossible, and they had prevailed. The galaxy might still be dangerous, but for Nexus Prime and the Felian Confederacy, hope had returned. And somewhere far away, among the stars, other civilizations watched silently, wondering if humans would answer their call too.